Hello and welcome. This is Guy Glidden, and this is going to be your guide and matrix review for assignment number 5. This is the assignment that has to do with the use of memory jogger tools. And by the time you get to this assignment, you're going to be almost done with the things in the course, and you're going to find this course is going to be a piece of cake, as you have already will have done almost all of the work you need to do it. It's just putting together a few pieces. Here are the resources that are going to help you with this assignment. First of all, you're going to need the Memory Jogger 2, which is a text for this course. Number 2, you're going to need use of a document that is available in Moodle. It's a resource guide for assignments number 4 and 5. It's about a 3-page document. It's a Word document, and it was also discussed in another screencast. And this is a tool that you can use as a review checklist for hotspots for assignment number 4, and a tool identification checklist for assignment number 5. You're going to need a copy to look specifically at the official guide and rubric for assignment number 5. Again, a Word document that is available on Moodle, and it will go through the process in a little more detail. And finally, you're going to have to use the draft for your improvement proposal. So by the time you get to this, you will already have completed at least one draft and maybe a draft of 2 sections of that guide. You're going to need to look at those as you're kind of getting into this process. Okay, what's this assignment all about? Well, as a part of assignment number 4, 2 sets of specific tools for working with ideas, working with numbers, and or working in teams should be incorporated into the improvement plan. Now, these tools in Memory Jogger, MJ, have been tested and demonstrated in lots of improvement projects in education, business, and community improvement issues. And so they're going to be basically resources that are going to help you do some important things with regard to your project. And before we get done, I'm going to give you some examples of that. So here are the assignment number 5 requirements. Number 1, let's start with number 1 first. You're going to locate at least 2 hotspots in your improvement project proposal where tools or combinations of tools will enhance the improvement project proposal. Now, this is where the document that I just discussed, the resource guide for assignments number 4 and 5, which goes through and specifies 9 hotspots that I've identified, will be really of helpful to you. Then you're going to locate the tools. You're going to add the tools into your narrative of your improvement project proposal when you get them identified. And then you're going to provide a brief addendum document to your improvement project proposal, and you're going to address the questions on the rubric for each tool or combination of tools. Here's what it's going to look like in practice here, and this is what the addendum is going to look like. So you're going to have 3 questions on the selection of the tool. Okay, and you can see the questions are pretty clear. What was the issue to be addressed with tool number 1? You're going to look at the list of hotspots as a guide. What's the tool and what's it supposed to accomplish based on Memory Jogger? You're going to find that clearly identified in the introduction for the specific tool in Memory Jogger. And what's the rationale for pairing of the tool with the issue? And there's the rubric guide judgment that I have for this set of questions. Then you're going to go to a set of questions on application of the tool. How would the application of the tool be arranged? What's the intended impact for the use of the tool? And what information would provide feedback about the use of the tool? And again, a set of rubric questions or guides that you're going to look to see if your response is up to snuff on this process. Now, there are basically 2 sets of questions: selection of the tool, application of the tool for each of the tools that you select, and you're going to do that in dealing with 2 hotspots in your improvement project proposal. So let's go on and let me look at an example. Here's an illustration. Pretty common situation. Probably 10 to 15 of you have come up with issues that have to deal with addressing strategies for students with special needs. As we know, multi-tiered service plans are often a part of these strategies. And a component of multi-tiered service plans is that we identify students with special needs for a special set of strategies. And I think there's a state model that talks about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Obviously, as you go higher up the number, we're talking about people with higher levels of needs. And so people get different strategies. But what's the issue with this? Well, one of the issues is this means that we have to identify students for multi-tiered service plans, and frequently these service plans require separation from the large group as a whole. So when we get to a special need where this service plan gets into action, then we need to separate the group, and we need to put these people in a separate service category for whatever strategies we're trying to get at here. Okay, well, best practices for education indicates that if you're going to use multi-tiered service plans, you need to really be clear about identifying entrance and exit plans. In other words, we really need to be very clear about making sure that only the people who need this Tier 1 or Tier 2 or Tier 3, I should say, plan are identified for this plan. We need to have a very specific and limited time plan of service for these people, and we needed to make it very clear in the plan when the person has met the threshold where the person no longer needs this plan. So, clear exit, clear entrance strategies, very clear plan. So the question is, if you're doing this for your plan, what does your plan include? Well, here's one of the hotspots identified that's related to this. And this one is at the beginning of the process, developing an accurate record of previous processes. And it lists some tools out of Memory Jogger that are really going to help you in this process. One I might really note is like a flowchart. Now, because this process of multi-tiered service plans is not a new concept. It's been around for 50 years. So the idea that you're seeing in the literature from KSD that this is a new thing off the market is not really true. And it means with lots of processes. So for example, it could include things such as if you have a plan in your school where at grade 8 or 9 you divide the groups into different math classes, and some get Algebra 1 and some get an introduction to math, which is a precursor to Algebra 1, and some get fast track algebra that allows people to do it in a shorter period of time. These are all variations off of the theme, multi-tiered service plans. So who gets included? Who doesn't get included? What are the criteria? Do we have a plan to review the process? Flowcharts, fishbones, all of these tools make it really crystal clear. My experience is this is a really big hotspot problem, the whole issue of dealing with reviewing old strategies or looking at new strategies that have to do with multi-tiered service plans. And that's something I'm going to be looking for if you have this as a part of your process in your plan. Let's go to illustration number 2. Right at the beginning of the process, it's really important in any improvement plan to divide the big goals into what I call multiple workable goals. Workable goals usually are outcomes that have measurement plans behind. So I've used in the illustration and has used a really overviewing process that I don't think any of you are going to be dealing with your improvement plans. But I would imagine everybody in this course would like to see that our world is making a lot of progress towards world peace. Now I realize we have lots of different views of what that might mean, and I understand that and don't mean to get into that process at all. But world peace is kind of a difficult concept to put your arms around. Now we can look at some very specific examples of illustrations of things that could or could not be done to make it a more peaceful world for a lot of citizens in the world. So this is an example of taking a big overviewing goal that's difficult to even conceptualize and put it into smaller workable goals that have outcomes in mind. You are dealing with this every time that you come up with a set of strategies for improving the life of students, either academically or in terms of the culture in your school. So you need to spend time with it, and you need to really make, and this is a big process. Or a second issue would be attaining agreement on priorities. A lot of times we come up with a list of priorities that are way too many to do. And several times I've addressed the issue in this concept and other processes. The research is pretty clear. We cannot multitask. We go from one task to the other. So when you think you're multiple tasking, you're not at all. You're simply taking one task, you're attending to it for the moment, and you're putting the other on the side. Well, if we have too many tasks on the process, we lose track of where we are. So experts are not really clear on the number of tasks that we have priorities, but it's really important that if you think you have lots of things to do in your school, that you say, this is our number one priority, this is our number two priority, and number three priority. Now think about this process. Who gets to be involved? How are we going to get involved? The research, again, is pretty clear. The more people you have involved and the more open the process, the more that you're going to get buy-in, and you're going to get agreement that these are goals that we should be doing. And this is pretty clear in lots of various processes. So here are two specific examples. So let's go back and review the process that you're going to do in doing this process. Number one, you're going to locate some hotspots, and you're going to use some of the documents I provided that will help you not only identify what I've identified as some hotspots, and also that shows a matrix of tools in relationship to hotspots. Then from there, you're going to look back at your draft of your improvement proposal, and you're going to mark or check or identify at least two of those where you think that maybe we ought to incorporate some tools, because these are hotspots that have not been addressed or you will have difficulty addressing in your improvement project. As soon as you've done this, you're going to go to Memory Jogger, you're going to do your research on what tools would help this process out, and then you're going to do this by making the appropriate adjustments to your improvement project proposal, and you're also going to give me an addendum page that's going to tell me how you've done this, and you're going to submit this in combination with your final copy of your improvement project proposal. We'll probably be talking about this more, but this should get you started. Thank you very much.